You are listening to the Get Global Network podcast of Whole Mind, Body, and Soul, hosted by Lawrence-Coutee. You can hear Whole Mind, Body, and Soul Thursday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Pacific Time on Yessurr FM, one of the original member stations of the Get Global Network.
Love, peace, and light. You're now tuned into the most informative and inspirational show on a Thursday night, where inspiration causes elevation is the goal. You're now tuned into Whole Mind, Body, and Soul. I am your host, Lawrence-Coutee. I am Ra Asasara. I hope everyone is having a high vibrational week so far as we ease our way into the weekend. Man, tonight is a very, very inspirational, and I'm very excited about this show tonight. Ever since I thought about the show and some of the topics we want to bring on that I was going to be bringing to the people, and this is one of them, you know what I'm saying? So I'm very excited to come on tonight and have my special guest that's going to be joining me. It's definitely been a show in the making, you know, and I just want to say this. As we go through this journey called life, and as we learn more about ourselves and how we function in the world, there's only two dominating factors or forces in the universe. And one of those forces is love, and the other is fear. And it all depends on which one do we choose to follow, or we choose to let be that force that kind of guides us, you know. Choosing love or fear is really what it's all about. You know, perfect love casts out all fear. I say that to say we have to really understand, you know, what kind of vibration that we're on and where are we going. I know we entertain love. No, we entertain fear. But do we honestly understand love? Do we honestly understand relationships? Do we honestly understand that love will free us? And I think that that's something that's tossed around all the time when we talk about love, but we truly sometimes don't get a chance to develop as spiritual beings, develop as human beings, because we don't understand the power of love, okay? So, again, this is one of those shows that I've been waiting to have, to really get into talking about love and relationships and sexuality and how we use it and embrace it and learn from it. How we choose to inform ourselves, and what are the views that society has put on those subjects. You know, I always say, are we thinking for ourselves, or is someone thinking for us? So I'm not going to be long. I'm going to really go ahead and jump into it and introduce my guest. My guest tonight is a very powerful sister. She's very spiritual. And I'm very, very pleased to have her. She refers to herself as an intuitive muse, okay? Now, some may be, you know, more comfortable or have heard the term of personal development life coach, but she is spiritually assisting individuals in this time to shift into the highest version of themselves. She teaches love skills. She teaches relationship skills. She teaches us how to get in tune and the energy of the womanhood, and how we look at ourselves and view ourselves from an individual, but more importantly as a unity, because our relationships, most of the time, we work on the individual, but we don't normally work on the unit when we're in these relationships, okay? She uses her skills, and she goes into the energy. She gets into the Tantric, and she explains those lifestyles. So without further ado, I'm going to bring her on so we can get started, because I know this is going to be one of those shows where we're just going to go in and we're going to kick back and have this candid conversation to let all our listeners out there be informed and be able to tap into some of this knowledge and this energy. Without further ado, my special guest tonight, Miss Gerbrina Coutee. How you doing, Queen?
I'm doing wonderful tonight. How about yourself?
You know what? I am blessed and super excited to finally get you on. You know, this show has been a long time coming.
And it's been a long time coming, but I believe that it's the perfect time to have it. The moon is right. The universal energy is right. And I'm just ultimately just excited about now, being in the present. So, it's been a minute, since we were supposed to have this show, but I'm just stoked about being on tonight. Thank you for having me.
Right. And we were just talking about how everything happens at the perfect time. I think sometimes we're so caught up and, we're going to do it this way and we're going to do it that way. But when you let spirit take over and you let everything be in the proper alignment, everything falls into place and you're at the right time and we're at the right time where we're supposed to be at this time. So I know we're going to have a phenomenal show and just let it flow. But first, I want to ask you, Queen, how did you get started in your journey and in your calling? If you could kind of take us back, how you began to start your journey and how did it all unfold for you?
Such a great question, such a loaded question. As I moved through the journey, I realized that I have always been on this path. And what I mean about always, I realized that I can trace back my shifts and transformations and coming into this very moment way back to when I first probably came out of my mother's womb. Of course, we lose some of that memory when we're, between 0 to 2 years old. But I realized that, some of the significant things that happened in my life up until now, how they all built me up and were shifting me to get to this space of where I am in this life path work. But one of the most significant periods of transformation, I remember I was working in the industry of network marketing. I was hustling. I was just like the female version of a hustler, okay? I was just working hours upon hours. And, I was in my mode of just wanting more, but wanting to be smart, coming out of the whole culture concept of going to work every day and giving my energy and my time into someone else's goals and dreams, in which I have, I don't cast any shade on anybody who's going to work every day. It's a respectable thing to do. But for me, at that point in my life, I was making a transition into my life path, and it wasn't to be working for the company in the industry that I was working for. Simultaneously, I was wanting more spiritually. I've been, immersed and brought to church, nearly every, Sunday since I was born. Somebody's churches. My father was Catholic. My mother was Methodist, and grandma too. And so I was always in front of the church Wednesday and Sunday, and so I was at a point in my life where it was just a turning point. I wanted more. I wasn't getting fed. It sounded like every time I went to church, it was starting to be, a repeat, or it was a conversation that the pastor had with my mom, and I had believed for so long it must have been Spirit of God speaking to this pastor. But I realized, this is a conversation that they've been having about me, and so it just took away the mysticism. It took away the whole, God is in the sky and God is angry at you and, all the stuff we've been told to believe without question. And I was starting to question. And so luckily, I had chose the path of network marketing. It's not what I'm in now, but it was a part of the journey. And I met a young man online. And we met online. It was about business. We were supposed to meet in Houston, Houston, Texas. And we wound up meeting. He came to a business meeting, but he didn't want the meeting. He was interested in myself. And, he said no to the business, but we continued to start talking. And one day he sent me a DVD. I mean, not a DVD. It was a link to, I think it's called like Zeitgeist movie. And it was really just breaking down the whole system of America. And it was breaking down religion. And it was really opening up my eyes to a lot of things, but I was still closed because the first shot or scene that they had put on this DVD was the Eye of Horus. And I'm thinking, oh, Lord, I have been closed my whole time. I've been told to think everything was the occult or paganist or devil worshiping. So when you see that symbol, for sure it ain't God. Even though I was like 1 foot in the church and 1 foot out, I was still skeptical. And
right.
So I pushed past it, and I wound up watching this video, and I was so highly educated. And, that was the first time I was really opened up. And it was just something that my soul had been waiting for. The video poured into me. The individual that I met poured into me more about Kemetic science and African spirituality. And that just catapulted into just a whole bunch of intake of information. And once I got, taking in information, I started understanding that there was a purpose of relationship. There was a purpose of love. Love is the highest frequency. There was a purpose in making love. Everything had all these purposes, and I had been shut down for so long to take things at face value and not ask questions. And so meeting him catapulted me into digging. And so it put me in the face of the most beautiful energy, which is orgasmic energy, which led me to understanding this theory, which the theory is Tantra. And so it's catapulted into a business of teaching people how to love for real, how to love unconditionally, how to love deeply, how to, relate to one another, which is something that we are not taught, and ultimately how to use orgasmic energy, which is one of the highest frequencies next to love, and use them both to empower ourselves, have empowering unions, and to manifest a life that we ultimately desire.
Well, let me ask you this. We all know about 2012 and, how that shift in consciousness happened. So about this time when you met the man in Houston, but what year is this? What year is time frame is this we're talking about?
That's a good question. And I want to say it was around probably maybe the end of 2010, maybe 2011, somewhere in there.
Okay. And the reason why I ask that, because I just find that, people, we say, in the esoteric and metaphysical communities that there was definitely a shift. And I believe back at that time, I was doing a lot of teaching at that time, and we were seeing that this energy, a lot of feminine energy was shifting. And we also referred to the return of the goddess energy on the planet. And then right around that time, sisters started going natural, and you started seeing them kind of free themselves, of the norms. They really started to tap into their sexuality. And I think the question I'm going to ask, can you kind of see in your journey and this time that energy shift, and you see it, but is it really being resonated and is it vibrating? Is it really happening, this goddess energy, that's feminine sexuality that's really on the planet right now?
I'm going to say yes. Let's be clear. I do feel like there are, I don't want to say a large number of women that are not quite open yet, but, it's hard pushing past social culture and social engineering. And so there's far too many women that I would like to see, my personal numbers, that are still not completely open and letting go to that energy. However, what I will say is that I do see women definitely coming online into this goddess energy. Now, whether they know the theory behind it, I don't know. But what it's looking like to me is a very wild woman, defiant woman. I will not be shamed about my sexuality. I feel powerful being sexy. I will show my body if I want to, and I will not ask your permission. So it's coming online to me like that at a wider scale, but it's all still the goddess energy. See, because just because you don't know the theory or the spirituality, you know what I'm saying, behind it, doesn't mean that you aren't living and allowing that energy to come online inside of you.
Right. But it's definitely being felt. And I think that one thing that when we talk about African and the culture and what we do over here in the West, is like even the dancing, And I met a woman back in the day, and she said she danced, and part of her dance, her sexual dance, was a form of worship almost, you know what I'm saying, to the Creator. And the this question is going to be, when we talk about, you know what I'm saying, the goddess energy and sexual energy, you know what I'm saying, how can that be defined? No one knows what we're even talking about right now. Someone basic. How is that embraced and how is that energy, you know what I'm saying, kind of put out there once you really understand it, you know?
So you're saying, how is the energy put out there? Like, how am I utilizing the energy and the power in that energy?
Yes, that. And more of the question is, how does a person kind of tap into that, you know what I'm saying, into their womanhood, you know, in the education behind it, I guess. Right.
And so I will like to say, in all fairness, tapping into that energy is path work. And what I mean by that is that there is a series of delayering and unpeeling that a woman has to go through. And essentially an initiation is what I believe. And I would love it if people would understand the importance of why cultures, you know, such as African cultures, did initiations, or secret societies do initiations, because they realize that they are delayering you from the social culture that is so heavily packed in your brain, or you're so brainwashed with. And brainwash is not always a bad thing. It's just brainwashed into a theory or a culture or behavior. And so there has to be a delayering before you can take on new information, right? And so that's a process. But what I would like for people to understand is that orgasmic energy, right? You know, they can measure the love frequency, right? And they can also measure orgasmic frequency. When a person is having an orgasm, what type of body frequency are they at? And this frequency is a very high ranging frequency, right? And so if you think about orgasmic energy and you think what happens when you have an orgasm, and that's not to say it always happens, everybody always has an orgasm, but when a person has an orgasm, they are in pleasure, right? But they usually have an orgasm because they're having sex. They're making sex. They're creating. You see what I'm saying? And so when you make sex and you create, or you're in this orgasmic field of energy, you are essentially going to be becoming pregnant with something. And it doesn't have to be pregnant with the baby. It's pregnant with goals and dreams and whatever is in the environment, pregnant with pleasure. You know what I'm saying? And so once you become pregnant with this orgasmic energy, or become pregnant by doing the interaction and the intimacy that comes with having orgasmic energy, you're able to basically birth beautiful things, right? Like a woman who is in an orgasmic scenario with her mate, right, can possibly ultimately birth a baby. And so the power in a woman understanding that she has orgasmic energy floating in her body, or that she is her resting place is orgasmic energy. That's her birthright to have that. Essentially what we're saying is that if your resting place is orgasmic energy, you are essentially a walking creator.
Now we talk about sex magic all the time, and I want you to try and explain this to the listeners who don't know. We're talking about creating something, and you said a while ago, okay, you're bringing forth a child, but when two people unite and bring those energies together, define sex magic of holding that thought. And if I'm holding that thought and they're holding that thought, how does that manifest in the energy that's used? Can you kind of explain that?
Right. So I'll do it to the best of my ability because, again, it's a process. And even though to us these processes seem so simple, we have to remember that people are still delaying. You know what I'm saying? They still are holding space for information that they were given that says that you got to work hard for what you want. Things don't come easy. Money don't grow on trees. And we can go on and on about the things that we've been brainwashed to believe. And so when you start putting the power behind sex magic and understanding what sex magic is, you have to be ready to release those. So that's the first point of ritual, is being able to release the fact that You are a walking, talking creator, right? And so how do you become a person that's empowered to use sex magic? The reason why the ancestors wanted us to use sex magic is because it's giving purpose to sexual intimacy. It's giving purpose to intercourse, right? It's putting you in the driver's seat. It's putting you in the creator's seat. So you're not waiting and begging to have your life change, or begging to have things come into your life, or begging for money. If you are the creator of it, you can create it anytime that you want, right? And so one of the second things that we want to also be able to digest is that thoughts are things. It's nothing on the planet that wasn't first a thought. And I know that we've heard that over and over again, and it kind of rolls off our tongue, right? A cliche statement. Well, sometimes we don't really grasp what that really means and what we're really saying. That means that everything that you are looking at in the room that you're sitting in right now, if you're looking at a spoon, if you're looking at lip gloss, if you're looking at a match, it was first a thought. That thought was what we call comes from a place called the ether, the chaos that we talked about earlier. It came from your mind. And so you have to think a thought if you're going to birth it and manifest it. Manifest it means make it seeable, make it touchable, make it tangible. If you're going to manifest, it has to come from your mind first. Now, the other concept is that think about a woman when she is pregnant with a baby. We all know that hopefully all the babies have souls inside of it when the woman gives birth to it, in whatever setting she decides to give birth to that baby. So where did the soul come from? The soul came from heaven. Now, we don't know where heaven is. Even if we've been going to church for 20 years, we just believe it's up. But we know it's somewhere that's supposedly not here on earth. We know it's a different dimension. So if a woman can create a baby with a man, but have the physical baby inside of her, she's the carrying place. When the baby gets ready to come, or is creating and getting big and forming into a human baby, there's a soul that comes into that baby, because we know we have a soul, because the thing that's talking to me on the line right now is the soul. It's not my mouth. It's not my hand. It's not the skin on my body. It's the soul that's talking to you. And so each one of us, hopefully, has that once we get here. So if a woman can carry a soul, and we know that the soul, or believe the soul came from heaven, then isn't the woman the portal to heaven? So if a woman is a portal to heaven, right, and thoughts are things, thoughts come from heaven, or thoughts come from a place that we cannot see, but it obviously exists because each one of us has proof that somebody has thought about something and made something, because we're looking at it right now. And so the concept is that if you make love with a woman who has access to heaven all the time, she's the gateway, because she carries the soul onto earth. Well, if she can carry a baby on the earth, she can carry a piece of a chapstick, car mix, blow dryers, candles, cars. She can bring that into fruition too. Unless you're saying a car is more than a baby.
Heavy. So I want you to get into this too. When you're making love, say, okay, we're having sex, or we're making love. All of that stuff is, when you're going through foreplay and roses and candles, all that stuff is ritual, right?
Sure, absolutely.
All of that stuff is ritual. Can you kind of talk about how it's laid out and how you can go into that? You know what I'm saying? And why the mood has to be set? Because it's you're setting an ambiance, right? You're creating something. You're performing a ritual. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. They just think, oh, it's romantic. We got roses and rose petals and stuff. But that's really a ritual, you know, to get.
It's a ritual. Mm-hmm.
Right. Can you kind of explain why that's ritual?
Right. Now, what I would love to share tonight is that ritual is systematic approach, right, to getting what it is that you need, that the soul needs, the body needs. It's a systematic approach to doing that. Everything we do is a ritual. from the way that you get up in the morning and get ready and drink your coffee, get in your car, drive the same way to work, get into your job, punch in or whatever they do now, and sit at your job. That's a getting up morning ritual. So it's about, to kind of like break down the spookism of it all. The ritual is a systematic approach to doing things. Now, your ritual is going to be powerful no matter what. It's just natural law. And if we're not familiar with natural law, we got to Google it. There's no excuse not to be. And these are the laws of how the universe works. There's no if, no ands, no buts about it. They've been working this way before science discovered it. They're just letting you know that, yes, the universe works this way. So you can't get out of it until you get off the earth. Now, when you do a ritual, you basically are teaching your brain, right, to believe, right, that the system that you are getting ready to commence or that you are going through right now is going to get you to the end goal, which is to manifest intimacy, to manifest lovemaking, right? And so that's what was so powerful on my journey to when I started learning about who I am, where I came from, what my ancestors were doing, and how they gave me theory and meaning behind everything that I was already doing. It was powerful to understand. I'm already in flow with the universe, but now I have some theory to understand what I'm doing. Everything you touch in making love are these fantasies about how you want it to be romantically set up when you're making love. You call it foreplay, and we call it ritual. Right? Because we understand the power behind it. So when you put rose petals on the floor, it's a beautiful ritual. You're making it pleasurable. You're making it beautiful. You're making it smell good. But rose petals are about love. They're red and they're about love and passion. So what you're telling the universe, because the universe don't speak English, it don't speak Spanish, it speaks be and do. What you do is what the universe understands. Because what you do is what your beliefs are in your subconscious mind. That's what registers. The frequency of how you believe and what you do is the language of the universe. So when the universe is feeling you in its beautiful consciousness, is feeling what you're doing, you lay down rose petals, you're telling the universe you want passion in your life. You want some hot, steamy, beautiful intimacy and love. When you burn a red candle, you got red candles set up all over the place. You're telling it again, I'm using the vibration and the color of red because I want hot, steamy, passion, juicy lovemaking in my life. When you burn the incense, depending on what kind of incense you're burning, you say, I want clarity and purity and beautiful energy and beautiful vibe in this room. So what you're doing with the setup and the things that you use, the herbs and the roses and the candles and the beautiful music, the universe understands music and language and frequency. Sound is its first language. Mm. So you are reinforcing what you desire in the universe. We're using outside materials that the universe has made or people have made to reinforce what you want. And so it's a systematic approach to getting what you desire. Yeah. When you lay these things out and set the ambiance of lovemaking.
And with that, before we go to break, man, there's so much information, because when we come back, I want to get off into how can women, begin to tap into, their sacred womanhood and their journey into their sexuality. And I want, before we leave, we got to also give the men some type of pointers on how to relate, when it comes to working with their queens or their mates and the sexual energy. We want to get into all of that. And we're going to find out, everything that you got going on and where you're at right now in your journey. And we want to hear about some of the cases or people that you've been working with and just some of the things that you've run across, because there's a lot of sexual blocks, and I want to talk about that too. I want to make sure we hit on that and these things that's built up, because that stuff is not good for you when you're storing up this sexual energy, right?
Yeah.
And I really want to get into all of that. But before we go to break, is there anything else you want to hit on in the next 2 minutes before we break it down and go to a musical break that you might want to add on to what you're saying?
Well, I just wanted to say for people who are already into spiritual work, into rituals, and, who understand the power and the knowing of what you're doing, I just would say that tonight is the new moon. It's a beautiful time to set your intentions for love and, set up things like candles and roses and herbs and whatever it is that you desire that you want to have come into your life. And although we might not understand completely on how to use sex magic, but tonight is a beautiful night to meditate on what it is that you desire and test to see if the thing that I'm telling you tonight is possible. Start small. Oh, I want to get a pack of Starburst in my life. Whatever.
Right.
You can set that intention and see if the universe will not honor you in raising up your level of knowledge tonight by being on this call.
Right, because this is all about intent. When we're working our magic, when we're putting it out there in the universe, it is a lot to do with your intent. So with that being said, what you desire, you have to put it out there. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and get into the vibrational sound. But you're listening to Whole Mind, Body, and Soul, and we'll be right back.
You are listening to the Get Global Network podcast of Whole Mind, Body, and Soul, hosted by Lawrence-Coutee.
You're back on Whole Mind, Body, and Soul. Special guest tonight is Gerbrina. We're talking about energy. We're talking about the sacred woman. We're talking about sexuality. We're talking about taking you to the next level and educating and all of this great energy, And really, Queen, we talk a lot about, we're just throwing around things and topics and stuff, but this stuff is like you said earlier in the show, it's about re-educating yourself or educating yourself. And sometimes it's not about educating yourself, but remembering this, because it's in your DNA. You know what I'm saying? We do things all the time that we're not even aware of, and we don't know where it's coming from, or why did I think this thought, or why do I feel this way? But the taboos, when we talk about sexuality, I want you to really kind of get into that and how we have to break out of that, society norms and what makes a man sexy, what makes a woman sexy, you know what I'm saying? It's like we have so much education to do, you know what I'm saying, when we start going down this life path. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so, talking about sexual taboos, yes, we have to cover that because we are so oppressed in this culture. We're social engineered away from being open about sexuality. And so my question is always to, the people that I'm in contact with or speaking on social media platforms or on shows like this, my question is that how can it be wrong or dirty or offensive or inappropriate to be so comfortable with sexuality, something that is natural, something that we are born with, an innate state of being, an innate desire, an innate need. Let's just call it a state of faith. We need intimacy. We need sex. There's nobody on this planet that's on this phone line that, that has a heartbeat and a belly button that's real that didn't come from sex.
That's right.
So what is it in the culture, in the teaching of the culture? How can we allow them to make it offendable for us to address and to be in a state of sexual desire and sexual being and need? How do we allow them to do that? Beyond just being blind, being followers, being asleep.
Can you tell us a little bit about Tantra for no one who doesn't know and doesn't know this thing? Can you talk a little bit about that? What is
I
it?
can. Yes. And so Tantra is widely known being a very sexual and sensual lifestyle. At first glance, people believe Tantra to be ways to have deeper, more gratifying sex. And that is a beautiful piece of Tantra. Very beautiful piece of Tantra. But what Tantra really is, just dealing with the sexual level, is that it really gives meaning and beautiful understanding. It helps you to apply the theory and the knowing behind those nudges that you were just speaking about. It's in our DNA. Some things that we like, some things that we do, the pulling that we have in our womb and in our lingam and our sexual body parts to one another. Tantra gives the theory and the meaning behind why we want those things, behind why we have such an innate desire for those things. So Tantra is a very sexual, sensual, and high practice. Originally for a priestess, they had to be initiated into this type of knowledge because it was very powerful interaction with human beings and energy, right? And so the ultimate level of Tantra, from where I am right now, because it's probably so much more for me to know. I'm going to stay open for what I don't know. But right now, the premier ultimate level of Tantra in which you want to reach is that you are ultimately balanced between feminine and masculine energies, meaning that you are recognizing and giving thanks and gratification for all the masculine energies on the planet. And you are not embarrassed about the masculine energy. You are not angry at the masculine on the planet. You know, you are very much at one. You are very much at one in forgiving and loving and protective and serving all of the feminine energy on the planet. And so Tantra gives us the path to learning how to love and be in that union that it talks about in the sacred books. It gives us the path to actually and exactly becoming one, becoming the union that we are supposed to become when we put on those rings and do that ritual called marriage. Tantra gives us the path to that.
Amazing, amazing. And we think about some of, going back to these sexual taboos and stuff, and before I went to the break, I was talking about how dangerous that can be of suppressing desire or suppressing that energy, staying in that lower root chakra and letting that build up. Sexual tension is dangerous, and how it really, this energy is stagnant in you, and you wanna let it out. And some people, you know what I'm saying, will take that energy, you know what I'm saying, and don't know what they're doing, but they don't know how to release it. And I just find that we have to educate ourselves, you know what I'm saying, into how our bodies feel and what's really happening and why do we feel these type of emotions and sexual urges. But again, it's going back to the taboos. It's not like, you know, you're freeing yourself. You're supposed to be prude, or you're supposed to be, I shouldn't think those type of thoughts. But these thoughts are natural, like you said, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, they're natural. They're natural. If we didn't have thoughts of lust, then there would be no babies on this planet. Trust me when I say, if a woman knew, and we do know, some of us, because now we're coming back to the ways of the old, with new technology. And what I mean by ways of old is when women gladly gave birth to their children. And believe it or not, before, there was the most recent sacred book when it talks about how a woman is cursed with pain, right, when she has her child. I mean, there is and was practices prior to that where women didn't necessarily have these births that cause death, right? And so we're getting back to that. But my point is that if a woman knows how much pain is involved in the way that we have birth today, right? In the hospital, wrong positions, the baby's coming out. It takes 36 hours for the baby to come out. Do you really think that love, this purified, beauty, Holy Ghost, sanctified love, do you really think that is what brings the baby onto the planet? Because a woman has to go through 36 hours of pain. She has to be kind of crazy, actually. She has to be in such a deep lust and deep needing, a sexual, animalistic, lusting attraction to want a mother, to want to give birth to such pain.
Right.
And so people want to always separate, which is one of the taboos, that you don't want to be in a lust relationship or lust-filled relationship. You only want to be with somebody who's loving you, as if lust is a lower vibe and lower frequency of love. And perhaps maybe it is when it's not housed in a temple or a frequency or held by a soul that understands that they are functioning just by the way they think and the things that they, adopted by the culture. They might be functioning at a lower level. Therefore, their lust is not pure. Their lust is not divine. But there is a such thing as divine lust. A woman has to have that, right? In order to be with a man, to have beautiful pleasure with a man, get pregnant, and understand that in the next 9 months, she's going to be going through some horrific pain. We ought to be thankful for lust. And so we have to lay down some of these ridiculous taboos about what we should be doing and shouldn't be doing, and what is dirty and unclean and, unnatural. We need all of it. We just need it from a more divine and more whole space in our own psyche, in our own soul.
Yeah, and then another taboo is a man can, be with a woman, you know what I'm saying, and could be with another woman, and the taboo is like, well, a woman, that's not ladylike. And I'm like, well, that's bullshit, because a woman has desires, and if a woman want to go be with this man and that man, well, how does that make her a whore? So here we go again, with the taboos. It's like sex is natural. You crave the desire. You crave the sex. You crave the intimacy of a man, the energy, because this is our energy, and I don't think that people really understand. You are exchanging energy. You understand what I'm saying? You are
Correct.
Your really desire is to give birth to something, as you were saying. You want to manifest something, but you just think it's just lustful sex. I want some. No, you want to give birth to create something, and you need that energy. You know what I'm saying? So let's break that down. Is it wrong for a woman to want some and want it now?
Oh, well, you know how I feel about that. I feel like, first of all, there's so many ways to cover and unfold that very question. Well, first of all, let's be clear. Woman is the only being out of the two that has a sexual organ that's just dedicated to pleasure. She don't share it with having to go to the bathroom. She don't share it with needing it to breathe. It's not no dual function. It's for pleasure, period. If you look at a man is sharing his sexual pleasure organ with his natural need to have to flush out his system. So if God wasn't, or the creator of this all wasn't online or on board with a woman just solely wanting pleasure, first of all, then why is it the woman that only has a sexual organ that does nothing else but give her pleasure? Then, second of all, a woman has 8,000 nerve endings dedicated to pleasure. 8,000 nerve endings working in her body so she can have pure, unadulterated pleasure, orgasmic pleasure. We ain't talking about fun at the gym, fun with the kids. No, pleasure, sexual pleasure. Whereas a man has only 4,000. So saying a woman is some type of whore because she wants to have sex with multiple people, sex at all, because, one of those taboos is you're not supposed to have sex till you're married. And when you're married, having sex is supposed to be in the bedroom with the lights off, You know what I mean? And you some freaky kind of spiritual person if you do anything other than that. You know what I mean? So it's so much work to suppress what's natural.
Right.
And if a person is walking around with a sexual organ that's only for pleasure, then how do you, if sex is for anybody, it's for the woman.
Teach.
Right. And third of all, I mean, I could just go on. Third of all, a woman is the creator. She gives life, right, to anything that you desire. There is no rich man on the planet who runs out of ideas, who runs out of ingenuity and inspiration to build and keep competing or build a business or build a nation. A woman is insatiable. She will have ingenuity and inspiration continually coming in her environment. And if a woman runs out of ideas how to make things pop and work, she is blocking her goddess. She ain't online. When she gets online, she is working. She's ingenuitive. She knows how to fix it. She got vision. She can see. She's moving. So when a woman is insatiable, she has to be insatiable. She has to want more and desire more because she wants more and desire more. It inspires the man to go out and do more, build more, be more, create her vision. Man. So you think she only wants more in her head? No, she wants more men, more sex, more freedom. And if a woman is the catalyst, if she is the gateway of what brings the things that we want out the ether, and this has to take place with a man because you need to have a man and a woman to have intercourse to open up the gateway, then on a spiritual level, the more she has sex with, the more she can create. So should we just save her for one man, the only one man is getting all the gateway to heaven? It's unfair. It's ridiculous. It's selfish. It's, everything that we are in Western culture. Fear of competition, fear of somebody having more. So you want to shut her down and put her in some corner, in some box. You know what I mean? So that other men can have access to it. It's a competition thing, which is another social engineered some tomfoolery.
Now this we're going to have fun before I go to the top of the hour, because I will tell you, you will be back because it's so much. We haven't even scratched the surface on this topic, but I'm going to do a speed. I'm going to do a speed, and I'm going to throw something out there, and I want you to boom, 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 hit it, define it, move on to the next one, okay?
Okay.
I love this one right here. This is going to be kind of fun. Did man come from a woman, or did woman come from a man?
A man came from a woman.
Break it down for him now.
How on earth does a man get here if he didn't come through a woman? Who gave birth to him?
The black woman is God. Why?
Well, she's the chaos. She looks like the ether. She is the creator. I mean, there's science that confirms that she was the first. So she is the first. That means that the first is the originator that created it all.
Okay. Now, okay, I tell you what. Now let's go into this real quick. How can, real quick, because, man, so much. How can a woman begin her journey and tap into her sacred sexuality?
Yes.
What are some of the first things she should be doing?
Some of the first things she needs to be doing is questioning everything. Question every thought in her head that tells her to suppress herself, to not be free, to cover her body, to not ask questions about God, to not dig into her ancestors. Ask why about everything. Question it. And you research. You get around people who look like they have just a teensy more freedom than you, and you question and you ask why. That's what's going to begin her path.
Again, do you feel? I asked this question in the beginning, and it was kind of. I want to. Is the goddess energy, can you see the return on the planet? Again, are we becoming more sexually free? And if we are, is that because of the information age, you believe? Or do you think it's that time? You know what I'm saying? That's just the time that we're living in. Is it the information or is it the energy shift on the planet? What do you think?
Well, I think that they're one and the same because we are in a new energy shift of awakening, of wanting to know more, wanting to understand the connection that we have to the entire universe because we're connected to that. Well, the information is just this tool to help us get the information and get the questions answered of knowing and wanting more. Yes, I believe our DNA is waking up in our body. I believe that more women are coming online. I see it with my own eyes. I see it in Hollywood. I see it amongst the women that are around me. My group is growing out here locally. I've been, I'm connected to women, a circle of women that's all over the nation. We are coming online. And so if anybody has a problem with that, you're not going to be able to hold it down for long.
Right. I always say when the goddess energy returns to the planet, because that's why this planet is in chaos, we need to elevate the woman. We need to worship her. You dig what I'm saying? When I say that, we need to adore her. We need to embrace her energy because her energy truly will change. She shapes the planet. The hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. But with me saying that, what is some of the things that men need to understand when they want to be intimate with their woman or, kind of get in touch and kind of nurture that goddess energy or that divine motherhood and this sacred goddess? What can men start to begin doing with their mates and their lovers?
Well, first thing is that we have to have an intention to get into trust, meaning getting back online with trusting that we are for one another. We each have our place, so there is no competition and there's no need to suppress. And if you think about the innate positioning of a woman, she's the nurturer. She always wants life for her children or life for her creation. And when she gives birth to it, she doesn't minimize it. That's like, saying that you created a house and you hate the house. The house is lesser than you. No, it's from you. It's of you. It's you. You know what I mean? So we can desire and have an intent to minimize the idea or the ideology that we cannot trust one another. We have let each other down. So, as we are in intimate settings with men or in intimate settings with women, get back to a space of just making an internal agreement with yourself that I trust this woman. Because a woman, yes.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And I would just say this: men, get in touch, get in touch with your woman. Take your time. And I think that's what.
Oh yeah.
And we're going to go through multiple shows, and we're going to be breaking that down. You know what I'm saying? The ritual itself and how to set the mood, but the mind. What are you creating if your mind is not right? Prince was an artist, and he was way out there. Gemini, he was sexual. But I read stuff like before Prince make love with a woman, he'd make the woman pray. And here again, here we go. You're because you're fixing to have a union. You're fixing to tap in to the consciousness, and so you're going to create something. You are God. You're coming together, and you're going to bring this energy. And they said he would literally make the woman get down, and because you're fixing to unite with your Creator now. So he would make her. He would make her do that, and that's what I'm saying. I think that we've got to understand that sex itself is a spiritual. It's not lustful, it's not taboo and some of the things that we do, but it's more spiritual than you can even imagine.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with that. That is definitely one thing that I would recommend. That's something that I say a lot as well with the people that I work with or on social media. Also, it's just when you have a man that is, of the mind to want to pray with you, yes, to cleanse the room, to cleanse the space. And that's what a lot of the positioning for a man in Tantra is, that he's very much so holding a protective space for the woman. Because, yes, when she is coming to her climax or coming into her orgasmic energy, when they're making love, she is entering heaven. She is literally going into heaven, and she is calculating and performing alchemy and conjuring your dream. And so she has to be in a space where she has no worry about where her protective energy is, where the loving energy is for her. If you left the room to go get beer because you already then got yours, she doesn't need to be worried about those things. So taking your time and knowing, yes, this is a spiritual act. You're coming here not solely for her, but for her to be protected and to be pleasured so that she can create for you. So absolutely praying before is a beautiful sentiment.
It's so much educating ourselves and breaking these taboos and all these things that's been put on from, I say this all the time on the show, how we've been conditioning first teacher, mommy, daddy, preacher, teacher, and breaking out of this conditioning that we've been in, to understand that sexuality and sex itself, it's beautiful, it's liberating, it is energy. It's sacred energy, and we must re-educate ourselves back to the true intent and purposes, because the true intent is the unification of the Creator. So, with that being said, we're gonna get ready to break, and then when I come back in, we want to know where people that's listening can reach you, and we want to come back in before we wrap up, and we want to know what you're working on and what you got going. We didn't get into, the work you've done with Master Yao and all of that. But again, this is just the intro show, because it's so much that we're going to be looking for you to, kind of guide us through this and educate, the listening audience to this beautiful way of life. So we're going to break right now. We're going to get into the vibration of sound. You listen to Whole Mind, Body, and Soul, and we'll be right back.
You are listening to the Get Global Network podcast of Whole Mind, Body, and Soul, hosted by Lawrence-Coutee.
But time never ends.
You're back on Whole Mind, Body, and Soul. Special guest today is Gerbrina Coutee. We're talking about the sacred feminine energy, sexual energy, how to attain the higher heights, the union, breaking down the taboos. And it's been a hot show, man. I mean, it's so much. And that's why I love doing these intro shows with my super friends, so we can just get some of this stuff out the way and just give you little nuggets and tidbits. She's going to be coming back on, doing multiple shows, getting into the woman, going back and doing the science of creation. I mean, just listening to the show, I'm blown away. Phenomenal. I knew it was going to be worth the wait. And just like, again, we're so excited to have you on, Queen, and we look so forward to having you come back with us. Let me ask you this. What do you think? What do you think about the show so far? And could you tell us a little bit what you got going, what you're going to be bringing to the show?
Well, I'm excited about being on the show. I love how you let us just vibe and let spirit just take over. And that's just where I am in my space right now. I'm just really moving in spirit and really just being in tune with the ether. And, that's somewhat of why I titled myself an intuitive personal development coach, because I have to hear and see what most cannot and read energy. And so I just love it that we are able to just vibe and roll and let spirit take us. So I appreciate you for making this such a, relaxed and beautiful spiritual environment. And I'm doing so much right now. I have, groups on social media. I have social media accounts on IG and some on YouTube. I'm building that up. On Facebook, you can find me. And here next week, I'm heavily into the intuitive personal development part of it because, it goes along with us delayering and getting back to some of the core taboos we've been talking about all night. And so it's going to be hard for us to move forward and really step into our God self or step into our highest self if we are dealing with so much garbage and so many taboos and so many unkept and covered brainwashings that we have going on. And so I am going to be having a day nudist retreat here where we are making another taboo very natural, and that is being in our nude bodies, which is what we all have. We all come with these bodies. And so we're just going to be vibing here in the Bay Area or the San Francisco area, talking a little bit about Tantra, talking on it in depth and why we need to have it and learn it and how do we apply it to our lives. And it'll be a day retreat here. So I'm really heavily focused on that locally next Saturday. So if anybody is on the line and they're in the California area, I'd love to have you. And they can, inbox me. We'll talk about that later. But I'm working on so many great things. This is one of them. I want to start getting on the radio. So I appreciate that Spirit moved me here and reconnected us. So that's one of the projects I'm working on. I'm building up a blog and a website so that I can, get out the information, because right now I'm just taking personal clients and doing personal readings and doing some intuitive and, delving into the medium work as well, where we're talking to Spirit and really hearing from our ancestors and getting into that work. So I'm doing a lot. I'm just allowing myself to be used by Spirit so that those who are ready to return to their goddess and return to their God or to their higher beings, I'm just allowing myself to be, led, and so they can complete whatever they came here to do this life.
How can they reach you on Facebook or social media? How can they find you?
Yes, and so they generally can find me under my name, which is Gerbrina Coutee. I'm sure that'll be probably in the link or so. But again, it's GEBRINACOUTEE, and you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. You can also find me on YouTube, and you can inbox me in any of those locations. And, if you're interested in joining any of my private groups, we can talk about it and get you into that flow. And they can also email me at eatpraytantra@gmail.com. Inbox or email me there, and you can contact me, and you can do further work from the email.
I love it. Any parting words or anything that you want to put out there? You talked about the moon and the cycle that it's in right now. Anything you want to leave the listening audience or things that they could be doing right here at this point in time?
Yes, I just want to say good work to everybody who's on the line or who will be listening, who, will follow their intuition to click play on the recording of this show. And the reason I want to congratulate you for doing such good work and listening to your intuition is because that's just a confirmation that you are online, that you are doing exactly what your intuition and spirit said to do. So I just really want to say great work for that. And I just want to, also say that, we are in divine time for those of us who made it on the show and who listen to it tonight. This is the last day of the new moon. And the new moon is just all about ushering in the energy, the universal energy of planting what you want to have happen in your life. And so if I had one tip, be mindful of what you're thinking about tonight. Be intentional about what you're thinking about tonight in these last couple hours of the new moon, because it doesn't matter. Whatever you're thinking about is going to be. So if you're thinking about worry, that's what you're going to plant for the next 30 days or the next 29 days. If you're thinking about something great, building an empire, building a business, having money coming to you, or Starbucks, you will have that. You will also plant that, and it's possible to have that if you believe. So I just want to say I believe we did good work tonight. I'm grateful that the ancestors put us together, and allowed us to have such a beautiful call tonight.
Most definitely. I mean, it was everything I thought, but it was really just a candid conversation. And like I said, you will be coming back. It's so much, of educating and just being ourselves, you know what I'm saying, and being who we are. And I love the platform of Whole Mind, Body, and Soul when I can bring on people like you that can share and teach us and elevate the consciousness that's going on this planet as we move from third dimension to the fourth and fifth dimension right now. You know what I'm saying? There's something different going on, and I'm going to say you feel it, I feel it, we feel it. Things are changing, and there's going to be things that's going to be speeding up at this time, but where you're at, you're supposed to be. You're listening to this show right now. You are where you're supposed to be. You are hearing this information at this present time, at this time in your journey, in your soul's evolution as a spiritual being on this earth, having a human experience. And again, Gerbrina, you knocked it out the park. So excited to have you on. You know I've been coming at you about doing this show. And man, I'm so excited to have this first show in the bucket and to bring you back on, because I know they're going to be hitting me up. I'm already getting texts right now. When is she coming back on? You know what I'm saying? And I always tell my guests, don't give out your personal information, because, my listeners are, you know what I'm saying, will bum rush you. You know what I'm saying? Get out how they can hit you on the social media and different things like that, because it's just a great time we're living in that people want this knowledge and this information,
Oh, yeah. If they're willing to search you up on social media and take that extra step, then they're serious. So I appreciate the filter and the platform. It's a beautiful platform. So I would just, want to thank you, too.
Okay. With that being said, you guys, I thank you so much for tuning in to Whole Mind, Body, and Soul. We're going to be right back on next Thursday, same time, same channel. And as I leave you, I would just say this. The goddess energy is definitely back on the planet. Men, we're going to be, she'll be back on, because there's so much work we have to do with men. And I'll be on, and we'll be going over what we can do to help nurture this beautiful energy when it comes to our queens, elevating this consciousness and being the creators that we were truly born to be. Until we meet again, keep doing what you're doing, keep elevating, keep going inside yourself, keep manifesting your dreams, live in the moment, live in your destiny. Yesterday is gone, tomorrow is not here. Live in the moment. Relax. Like I say, go out, you guys, get you some sun, get into the nature, get out here and really start living your life, because this is what this show is all about. Whole mind, body, and soul is really to elevate the consciousness of our spiritual being here on the planet. And with that being said, I leave you as I greet you. Love, peace, and light. Until next week. Thank you and God bless.
Wanna thank you. Yeah. Wanna thank you. Wanna thank you. Yeah. Wanna thank you.
You have been listening to the Get Global Network podcast of Whole Mind, Body, and Soul, hosted by Lawrence-Coutee. You can hear Whole Mind, Body, and Soul Thursday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Pacific Time on Yessurr FM, one of the original member stations of the Get Global Network. Listen to Yessurr FM and other member stations of the Get Global Network on the go by installing any of the Get Global Network apps, like So Metro Magazine, Grassroots Salute, Agtown Nation, or Big Red Radio Nation for your cell phone. The apps are available for download on both Google Play and iTunes app stores. Take the time to subscribe to our podcast via iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, or the Spreaker Podcast Network.